So, E3 2018 is right around the corner, and it seems like everyone knows everything this year. Things have leaked, there are rumours that people suspect to be completely true, and so it feels rather pointless to do some predictions in light of a lot of things being known. That said, I would still like to talk about some stuff for E3, so I'm going to discuss 7 games that I'm excited to see more of at this year's show. First up, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. This, of course, being the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, which now cements itself among my personal favourite games of all time. One of the most beautiful games I've ever played, one of the most mechanically satisfying games I've ever played, and one of the developers on the team for this game worked on AM2R, which was a fan project that recreated Metroid 2 right before Nintendo did, and it was actually better than that Nintendo remake in many ways, which I really enjoyed, so that's a plus for it. The second thing is that the kind of director, the main guy on this game, Thomas Mahler, has mentioned that he wants this game to go as if the first game was Super Mario Bros. 1, the jump to be as if this was Super Mario Bros. 3. Now, of course, I'm not the greatest fan of Super Mario Bros. 3, but I understand the sentiment. He wants it to be a monumental jump. He wants it to be something that is crazy and big and impressive. And they can do that visually, of course, they can do that from the mechanic standpoints, but for me it's all about the design. How do they design this world? Do they make it more interconnected? Do they make it less linear than it was last time, which is actually one of the things I like about Ori the most. But there are a lot of ways in which they could improve on the game. There were some mechanics that I wasn't a huge fan of, and I think that overall they could create something that is very special. So hopefully we see gameplay. I'm keeping an eye out for this. You will most likely see this at the Microsoft conference, so keep an eye, and we shall see. Some more Ori, please. Give it to me. Next is a game that I really don't know a lot about. It is Cyberpunk 2077 from CD Projekt Red, the developers, of course, of the critically acclaimed Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which consumed my life in the summer of 2015 when I just dumped 100 hours into this thing in merely a matter of weeks, perhaps. It was absurd and obscene and is still among my favourite games of all time. It's kind of funny how 2 of the games that we're going to see at this year's E3 were in my top 2 at the end of 2015, so seems like that cycle is coming around. But this project was announced a long time ago, long before anyone knew that The Witcher 3 was going to be as good as it was, and so there was excitement for it back then. It's of course based on, I believe it's a board game, the Cyberpunk board game, and so they kind of continue their theme of making games based on other properties, which, you know, it worked out for them once, so why not try it again? And honestly, I don't know a huge amount about it. I know it's going to be a narrative-based, open-world game, similar to The Witcher, and it's going to be a different setting. It's not fantasy this time, so maybe I'm a little less inclined to like it, because fantasy is my jam. But this trailer that they've shown was pretty cool, and there's some androids, and there's some guns, and there's a lot of cyberpunk going on all over the place. So I'm hotly anticipating some gameplay potentially to see actually what it looks like. I'm sure it's going to blow everyone away, but that is absolutely on my list. I want to see more of what the hell Cyberpunk 2077 actually is. I have a complicated relationship with Fire Emblem Fates. On the one hand, I really didn't like Birthright, and yet Conquest was one of my favourite Fire Emblem games in years. Revelation it's whatever, it kind of exists, but overall, it was a very controversial game in the series. A lot of people were up, a lot of people were down, and it kept a lot of things from Awakening that people didn't want. The waifu simulator continues, a lot of that stuff, but they upped the production values. Like, the cutscenes were great, and I think that what they could do with a new Fire Emblem on Switch is to go even further in that direction, right? You're able to leverage the power of an HD system, bringing Fire Emblem back to a console for the first time in however long since the Wii version, so it is there and open as an opportunity to make something that is really grand and spectacular and awesome. will it be? That is the question. What even is Fire Emblem Switch? I have said for a long time, I would love them to change the setting, get away from the kind of medieval fantasy, move into something that's more futuristic. Let's get some lightsabers on the go. Let's use some laser guns. Let's get some new weapons triangle stuff in the mix and see if it does anything different. I would love a sci-fi based Fire Emblem, if only for a change of setting, because this one has become rather rote over the years. But we shall see. There is definitely the opportunity for them to do something interesting, but I question whether that is their motive or not. I'm still excited to see what the game is. I'm sure it will look fantastic, but will it play in the way that we want it to? That is the thing that is open to be judged. So let's hope and cross our fingers for it to be good, please. Sucker Punch is one of those studios that don't get a huge amount of credit for the stuff they do, and yet they make some of my favourite games. During the PS3 era, of course, they worked on the Infamous series, which I still proclaim as one of the best open world games ever made, if only because of the traversal abilities, and the speed with which you move, and the ease with which you can get around to places, and the crack that is tiny little shards hidden around every corner that constantly distract my attention and make me want to run around everywhere to find them. So when they announced their new game, Ghost of Tsushima, which is this samurai-based open-world game, which maybe has a touch of the superhero to it, with some special abilities, with some crazy samurai guy who could do cool shit, I was very excited. So far, we've only had this cinematic reveal trailer, which doesn't really tell us much about how the game will play, but with their pedigree in open world, with their pedigree in making games feel good and satisfying to play, I am 100% on board with this. I really want to see some more of it. I'm sure that Sony are going to give us a big dollop of it, because of course they have mentioned that their press conference is going to contain 4 major games, and this is one of them. So we will see it very soon, and we're guaranteed to hopefully see a lot of it. And I want to learn more. I want to know more about this story. Who is this guy? Where does he come from? Who's he fighting? Does he have the ability to turn into an actual real ghost, or is that just some weird sci-fi technology that they're infusing in? Who knows? But it's exciting, and I want to see where it goes. So here's one that no one expected, and is still possibly not true, depending on who you believe and what rumors you follow, but I think that at this point we're pretty much set in stone that Starfox Grand Prix is going to be shown at E3. What is Starfox Grand Prix? Well, it's apparently a racing game in the style of Diddy Kong Racing, made by Retro Studios. Yes, you heard that correctly. Which means it would have a single-player campaign, would have a bunch of boss fights, potentially using Star Fox mechanics in an interesting way to, I don't know, update the kart racing genre, make it feel like something fresh and different. I am really curious to see what this game looks like, because one of the things that really disappointed me about Star Fox Zero, just by the fact that I didn't play it, is that it wasn't very visually appealing. It looked like a HD N64 game, which may be a little bit of a harsh thing to say, but it wasn't very distinctive. It felt very bland. There wasn't a uniqueness to that art style or that art design, and I want to see that Retro, who are a studio with a pedigree for good-looking games, I want to know what they can do with this. Will they go crazy and use the puppet style that they used in that Nintendo Direct in E3 2015? That would be insane. It would also cost a lot of money and require a lot of work. But how does this game feel to play? Does it feel like a Star Fox game? Am I going to be put off by that because I'm ultimately not a big Star Fox fan? Will it have a nice kind of kart racing flow to it? Will there be weapons and variety in that sense? How many tracks will there be? There are so many questions up in the air right now, and I want a lot of them answered, and I'm sure if this game is real, we will get a lot of those answers. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, at the very least, and hopefully it impresses people, because there are people who are skeptical out there, I think they want to be turned around. So we shall see. What is Death Stranding? Is it a sandwich? Is it a mango? Is it a speakerphone? Is it a headphone? Is it a glass on a table? Is it a real video game? Is it a board game? Is it a social experiment? Is it just an assortment of cutscenes put on a DVD that will be delivered to your door and will explode within your PS4? Does anyone know what Death Stranding is or will be? The answer is no. Hideo Kojima is now let loose. Konami have let him go, Sony have given him bucket loads of cash, and he is free to do with that cash whatever he so pleases, which makes this project one of the most exciting going into E3 because, quite honestly, we don't know what it is. How will this game even play? Is it going to riff off Metal Gear Solid 5 in some way? Are they going to try and bring that feel of those mechanics back? Because for me, that is the thing that really excites me about this game, is the potential that it could have some link to his previous work in terms of, you know, that style of gameplay. But it could be something completely different. It could be no stealth whatsoever. It could be a full-blown action game, but he's also said it's going to be a socially inclined game, which means it's going to have elements of social media. Does that mean that you're going to be playing this game through Twitter? I don't know. Like, does anyone know anything about Death Stranding? Can someone please tell me something? It's an enigma within a mystery within a complete unknown, and that is the most exciting thing about Death Stranding, because quite frankly, I want to see what it is. That's it. Actually, you know what? Kojima could just turn up at E3, drop another trailer, and say it's coming out next month, and then no one has ever seen gameplay for it. And the first time anyone sees gameplay is when they put it in their PS4 and they play it for the first time. That would be insane, wouldn't it? I mean, we don't live in a world where that could happen, but my god, I would love that. Anyway, what the fuck is Death Stranding? Please let me know. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Super Smash Brothers. It's coming. We know it's coming. They have hinted, nay, not even hinted, directly said that it is happening. We got that one trailer with the Inkling boy and girl, and they stared as Death Mario and Death Link and all the other characters emblazoned in fire stood there as, I don't know, reapers for the coming apocalypse that is Smash Brothers, where everything will end and all characters will fight and it shall be for eternity. Super Smash Bros. One of my favourite games of all time. Any variety, be it Melee Brawl or the Wii U, or even 3DS to some extent, I love. But there are things that they could do with this game, right? Like, there are things that were missing from the Wii U and 3DS versions, if we say that this is going to be built off the back of those originals, which I think is relatively safe to say. I don't think it's going to be from the ground up. I think the mechanics will feel very similar. And of course, we're going to get some new characters. That's inevitable. We already have 2 new characters, even though it's 1 new character, which is the Inkling. And Breath of the Wild Link is an adapted character, potentially. Hopefully, his moveset will be completely different. Who do we get? There are so many potential choices. Will there be a crazy crossover from Microsoft? Will we get something from Konami? Will there be a Goku that shows up in this game? I know a lot of people want it. Me personally, not quite, because Goku's not really a video game character. But you know what? Smash Brothers is just a celebration of everything at this point. It wouldn't surprise me if we got stuff at the Invitational and at the Direct itself. There's going to be a rollout here. Nintendo are smart. They know what they're doing. They're going to build the hype like no other thing, because Smash Brothers is the ultimate hype. It's basically, if you look it up in the dictionary, the definition of hype should be Super Smash Brothers. That's how much they are tied together. So I very much look forward to what we see, and hopefully we'll get a ton of trophies, a ton of fun stuff, and I will be playing this game for years and years and years to come. So there you have it. Those are the 7 games I most want to see at E3 2018. I'm sure we'll see them all, and we will learn a lot more about all of them, get some trailers on the go, and see, hopefully, if there are some other surprises, because there must be something, at least one big thing that no one knows about. There always is at E3, so do not lose hope. I'm sure that it's going to be a great time, very exciting, and I hope you all watch along and enjoy the ride. I will see you guys soon with another video. Until then, thank you for watching. Goodbye.